Yeah,
It's
sorry.
better, let's just go, I think. And just procedurally, Mr. Chairman, if if we have an ITL motion, fine, and I will, no matter the result of the vote, I'm happy to have it go on consent. It's just that, will we end up at 2-2 without Howard here?
So can't go on consent?
Well, it's just that
can't
it would be,
pass.
if it's a 2-2 vote, it needs another motion.
All right.
So if you want to wait to Howard or,
Yeah.
I don't know, Cindy, what do you vote?
Well, I was thinking I could support a motion of re-refer.
Yeah, I just assumed get rid of it.
Yeah, so why don't we wait for Howard? Okay.
Yeah, but appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Senator.
Thanks.
And so we'll move out of exec and we'll, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. And now we have 20 minutes before
Oh, we do?
we
Oh.
get to 1:27, so,
Oh, I didn't see how we'd schedule that. All right.
yeah.
Well, if Howard comes, does he come in or do we know?
Ryan said he's running late.
Okay,
All right, well, maybe they'll show up before then.
yeah. So we got a couple minutes, so I'll be right back. I'm just gonna do this stuff.
Okay.
And so all in favor of ITL on 237, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So 2 opposed.
Consent?
Second.
All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Do you want me to take it up? What do you want?
Oh, you can take it up.
All right, I'll take it up. Motion to move out of exec?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. And you still got time. Good. All right. What time is it now?
8:15.
Oh, I guess
Times are here.
7 minutes.
Oh, good, I'm gonna have a nice tea, I'll be right back.
All right.
Sorry, it was my fault for being late. Anybody need anything from Karen?
No, thank you.
Max, you need anything from Karen? Getting a nice coffee, right? No, iced tea. Oh, iced tea. Way too much coffee. Yeah, iced tea.
That's all right. We're good. We're good.
Started at 8.
Yeah, HB 127, wow, there. And we'll hear from the prime sponsor. Hello, Mr. Prime. My phone is off. Okay, that's fine. You
Good
have
morning.
the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. HB 127 is a very simple bill, but it has great economic impact on the North Country. The Connecticut River headwaters property is about 225 square miles, which is about a third of the size of Belknap County and about half the size of Sullivan County. There's around 260 miles of logging road on the property that's owned and maintained by the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. There's only 10.5 miles of road used by trails for ATVs on that whole property, just 10.5 miles. And on that 10.5 miles, there's no homes, camps, or abutting shelters. There has no impact on any property owners on that property. There's about 110 miles of ATV trails in Pittsburgh on private property, not Headwaters property, but on private property. And the Pittsburgh trails connect about 800 miles south to trails in Colebrook, Errol, going all the way down to Berlin Gorham. In that packet I sent, you'll see there's a map that I included that shows a lot of the ATV trails in the county. And if you look at the top, you'll see two little blue spots. That's all we're talking about, is those two little spots, which totals 10.5 miles. But what that 10.5 miles does, by being closed, which right now they close September 30th, where everybody else's trails are open till Columbus Day. And what it does, it makes Pittsburgh landlocked for those two last weekends. And you say, well, you know, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is Pittsburgh has about 800 residents that live in the town. But on a busy weekend with ATVers or snowmobilers, their population grows to about 5,000 people. So it's very, very important for their economy to keep open as long as they can, especially with the last few winters where we've had such low snow amounts. It's an extensive amount of money. The ATVs and OHRVs in the state of New Hampshire, their economic impact for the state is about, it's over $400 million. And if you look at the majority of the trails being in the North Country, it affects us the most. Break it down by the week for the amount the season's open, it's over $9 million per week of economic impact in North Country. And by having these trails closed, it makes Pittsburgh an island. Pittsburgh is a destination. It's always a great trip for people staying in the Berlin Gorham area. Let's go to Pittsburgh for lunch. Let's go to Pittsburgh for this. And same thing, the people that stay in Pittsburgh, let's go to Berlin, let's go to Gorham, where they're all interconnecting. It gives us a very unique trail system throughout in the United States. Part of I think with the trails being closed, the state loses money because they're going to lose gas tax money, they're going to lose room and meals tax money, because it's, like I said, it's a significant amount of money. When this bill was heard on the other chamber, there were really just two groups who opposed it. There was a group of people who are anti-ATV, that not one of them lived within 80 miles of Pittsburgh. So that, for me, was very telling. The second group that opposed it was New Hampshire Fish and Game. Now, Fish and Game had their reasons were, well, first of all, we do not have the manpower to do law enforcement on that 10.5 miles of trail once hunting season opens September 30th, which kind of doesn't make sense because they have to patrol and have law enforcement on the other 110 miles of trail in Pittsburgh and the other 800 miles south of Pittsburgh. But they don't have manpower to do that 10 miles. Doesn't make sense. But we gave them the benefit of the doubt. The Coles County delegation put money in their budget and it was approved that the Coles County Sheriffs will do law enforcement on that 10.5 miles of trail for those 2 weekends. And when it was in the other chamber, got through the House, got through the other chamber, went to Finance. Finance waived it off because there's no economic impact for the state at all. This keeping it open the extra 2 weeks does not cost the state a nickel because the law enforcement is going to be done by the Coles County Sheriffs and paid for by Coles County. The other thing that the Fish and Game said, well, it's going to interfere with hunters. It's a dangerous situation. Again, for many, many, many years, there's pretty good hunting in Colebrook, Stewartstown, and Errol also, and the rest of Pittsburgh. And there have been ATVers mixed with hunters for many years, and there's never been an incident. There's no problems, there's no issues. Again, their argument doesn't make sense. Now, there's been said that a couple years ago, there was a commission put together, HB, I think it's 1188 or 1088, and that was a commission to study OHRB use in New Hampshire. And this wasn't vetted by them, and that's true. But I am the commissioner on that, I'm the chairman on that commission, and I did do a straw poll after it went to the other chamber, and the majority supported this bill. The DNRC says they haven't taken a position, but they say there's a process in place, so if you want to change the date, because they have an advisory committee up there for the Connecticut River headwaters, but the process is biased and doesn't work. And just for an example, there was a meeting in October with the advisory committee of the Connecticut River headwaters, along with DNRC was there, Fish and Game was there. And if you look at the minutes, there were 25 people there from the public, and at least 20 of them spoke on the issue, and all were in favor of extending the closing date. But if you look at the DNRC minutes of the meeting, never even mentions that there's any public there at all. So the process is biased and it's not working. Hence, that's why this legislation has been brought forward. The landowner of the Connecticut River headwaters does not oppose this bill and has no problem with extending the closing date. This bill is supported by the people of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Selectmen, all 3 county commissioners, the entire Coles County delegation, District 1 Senator Rochefort, the Governor's Council Joe Kenny, and Governor Ayotte. So this is an important bill for the North Country. And to be honest, a group of legislators from Concord should not be making this decision for the local people in Pittsburgh. And with that, I will be glad to take any questions.
So you don't want us to make a decision for the people in Pittsburgh?
I think that the people in Pittsburgh have made their decision. I'd like to go along with it.
I'm kidding.
I understand.
All right, I think Senator Rosenwald was first, and then Senator.
I have a question about the language.
Okay.
The way I read the bill, it says that these trails shall remain open until the second Monday. To me, that means they would be closed on the second Monday. And I wonder if what you really mean is through the second Monday in October.
If that's exactly what I mean, that we want it open through Columbus Day to match with everybody else. And that's been kind of a little bit of a piece of heartburn because everything else in the area, and you can see on the map, but the 2 little spots we're talking about, is open to Columbus Day except for those 2 little spots.
So welcome to the Senate. We have some good people. We have a good people. No, I love it. That's great. That was very informative.
Okay, let me just say, this is my lack of energy
No.
training, but my background teaching writing.
Yes, well, we appreciate that, and we have another writer who had his hands up.
mesh well.
Senator Waters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you know, I will say to start that we've been big supporters always of the Trails Network up there and Ride the Wild and
Yes.
everything else. So it's all good and it's important to the economy. I did have a question about the status of the easement and whether this came up in any of the house or whatever. There are two things. First is the legal question about whether we have the authority to override an easement by legislation, with that notwithstanding. Because it does seem that the Supreme Court has made several decisions, New Hampshire Supreme Court, about the status of easements as legal contracts. And it seems that it is only the court that can change them for issues of undue burdensomeness and a couple of other criteria that are mentioned. So do you think that that it does create a legal issue about whether or not we can legislate without being challenged to overrule what is essentially a contract?
I think we can, and why I say that, because the easement is laid out for the property owner to continue to have it open for recreation, have the property open for, continue to be a working forest, open to hunters, that sort of thing. And what we're talking about are the roads which are owned by the state of New Hampshire and DNRC. So they have complete control of the roads, and that's all we're talking about. It's just 10 miles of road.
Yeah, on that, I mean, I think there's a distinction between roads and trails, and I'd like to kind of note this as well. The easement does mention snowmobiles, but it doesn't mention OHRVs. Now, it does suggest that there would be, under Section 5D, certain roads that would be open, but roads and trails are not technically the same thing.
Correct.
So there again, I think that the easement, you know, at the time it was created, I don't know why they didn't say OHRVs, but they only say snowmobiles. So again, do you think that there's a potential legal issue that somebody might make about the terms of the easement based on that?
I don't believe so, because throughout you're absolutely right, when the first easements were put together, and it was a great piece of work head by Senator Shaheen and Senator Gregg.
Yep.
They did a great job. OHRVs was not even a thought in anybody's mind. So as the sport has evolved and time has evolved, I think that the easement is actually a working document. And so everyone had agreed that on the easement and the property, there would be a total, and as you said, there's a lot of snowmobile trails, and I'm grateful that there are. But on that whole total property, there's only ATV trails is that 10.5 miles. There's no other ATV trails on that 148,000 acres. Only that 10.5 miles of two pieces, the total 10.5 miles, which is a total of 7 acres. So it's okay to have it all season up to September 30th, and we're not asking for trails. It's not on property. It's on the roads that the DNRC owns for just an extra 2 weekends.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, ask another one. So you did mention the Connecticut Lakes Headwaters Citizens Committee, and you know, it is what it is. It is the authorized body, no matter what we may think of it. But I know they did on September 12th have a meeting to discuss this, and they offered to open 3 miles of the trails, and that apparently was not seen as sufficient compromise, but the commission did vote 6-3 against this proposal. Isn't that the case?
I don't remember about the 3 miles of trail. I know that at the meeting they had in October, it was defeated, and I think, not going to argue, probably the 6-3 was correct. But, and we looked at it as again, there's a group on the committee that we feel are not open-minded, and they're an advisory committee. And DNRC has control of the roads. And that's why we're trying to say, hey, help out the people in Pittsburgh, help out the North Country, and just that 2 extra weekends.
Yeah.
And there's no, like I said, we took care of the additional monetary cost to it locally, not asking the state to put a penny into it. We're gonna take care of it ourselves. It just seems unreasonable not to, help the people of the North Country.
And, I mean, I granted, and if I just, one last one, Mr. Chairman, I think that, I just worry about, in that one too, as to the fact that in the easement, this group is mentioned as having certain authority, and they took a vote. So again, since easements are usually dealt with in the courts, would that not open a potential issue here about that? And also the control of the roads and the trails, roads/trails, whatever they are called, I'm not sure that's exactly clear in the easement either. So I just, you can see why I just wanted to get your response to my cautiousness over what I see are some potential legal difficulties about the status of easements.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that. But again, we've raised money through this house
Yeah.
over the last years to maintain those roads.
Yep.
New Hampshire, tax money, public tax money has gone to take care of those and maintain those roads. And there's another bill coming through this year to do it again. So the state of New Hampshire supports those roads. The town of Pittsburgh, their citizens, their leadership all support this being open. The only ones that are really given a hard time are like I said, the few members on the committee that don't live in Pittsburgh, aren't from the area. And, I think they're being unreasonable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So how is the team made up by DNRC? Are they elected or are they appointed? How do they get onto that committee?
On the Connecticut Headwaters Advisory Committee, they're appointed.
By,
Different stakeholders. There was one that was just put on because we had a resignation from Governor's Council. They put one on. There's another one from the governor, the Speaker of the House. I'm not sure if the President of the Senate does, but it's all just different stakeholders that have been appointed on.
yeah.
Correct, it's in statute.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lot to chew on right there. Okay, William Collins. Two sheets here. And then I'm gonna have the recap and then.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My background is pretty much all safety, from 4 years in the Navy and nuclear-powered Polaris missile submarines handling nuclear weapons, and we're pretty safety conscious. And after that, I went to college on the GI Bill and graduated a degree in wildlife biology, and then while I was waiting to get a job in that field, I got a job with the Boston Main Railroad in the signal department, which is all about safety, keeping trains separated, and make sure the lights and gates, like at Granite Street, work perfectly, because if they don't, you can have a loss of life. And after the 10 years on the railroad, I got a job as a federal safety inspector with the Federal Railroad Administration, inspecting on railroads, signal systems, and on locomotives. In the 30 years I did that, I investigated over 24 fatalities, and also a lot of train derailments. Many of them were overspeed incidents where the engineers they lost their situational awareness, or they had a diabetic coma, or something happened and they went too fast. Perhaps you remember the one in Back Bay in Boston back in 1990. Where train 66 came into the Back Bay Tunnel, a 30-mile-an-hour curve. It came in at 94 miles an hour and derailed after he struck the rear of an MBTA train. Nobody died, thank God. But anyway, so train-to-train collisions are human factor, and 35% of the accidents on railroads are human factor. So But fatalities at highway railroad grade crossings are a conscious decision in most instances to disregard the warning lights and disregard the fact that they're going around the gates in front of an approaching train or going whatever in front of an approaching train. They think they can get there before the train does. And investigated multiple grade crossing accidents with trains or striking cars. And
We're going to have to kind of keep it to this, Bill.
yes, sir. So the upshot of this is that became very safety conscious and very critical about things in my world and as I go around. So I'm a bird hunter, and I'll tell you right now, if you want to get a room in Pittsburgh in October, forget about it unless you want to book one now a year in advance, because they're all taken by hunters. So this story about having nobody coming to Pittsburgh in October is not true. It's packed with hunters. I talked to different lodges. In fact, I have a letter from Tall Timbers Lodge. So I also have instances of where a game warden was struck by a speeding ATV, and it was on Northwoods Law, and they were doing 60 miles an hour plus in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. The dust was so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and that's how Matt Holmes was struck on his ATV while he was doing radar, and he was knocked into the middle of the road. He's knocked unconscious, and the other game warden, other officer, pulled him to safety out of the road. And eventually the man that was driving the ATV was charged. But the point is, they tend to speed more often. In fact, it was in 2023, there was 600 and, let's see. In 2023, there was 528 speeding citations in Coos County, and in 2024, there was 504 speeding citations in Coos County. And the majority of accidents with ATVs and OHRVs are caused by speeding, and that's from Fish and Game. And the next ones are next accidents are caused by inexperience. So my concern is mixing OHRVs with people walking through the woods, either hiking or with their bird dogs that could be coming out of the woods onto the trail, is a potential. And it's I've talked to different people, and I have letters of people talking about running into or encountering OHRVs. They heard a horrendous noise, and he was able to grab his bird dog in time. This was an arrow before the ATVs, 10 or 12, came flying by. And that was his experience. I have another letter that says, and this is from a friend of mine in Rye. He hunts 2 or 3 times up in Pittsburgh. He said, I'm totally opposed to extending the OHRV season in Pittsburgh area to include anything beyond September 30th as an upland bird hunter with a dog. That would mean sharing the back roads of the sport that is totally incompatible with bird hunting. Bird hunting is a quiet, contemplative sport for those who appreciate nature. Put OHRVs in the same area and all you get is noise, pollution, and safety issues. By the way, the dust is toxic, the road dust. Just note how many items in Fish and Game's Thursday report, I'm not sure what he's referring to, of their weekly activities and dealing with OHRV accidents and injuries. It seems like all NH Fish and Game does is that those people is made, patrolling these people machines. The machines have the roads to themselves. Imagine riding them, mixing them with people and with dogs and carrying guns. Not a good mix, not to mention that they will completely spoil it for the outdoors, sportsmen trying to enjoy nature in peace and quiet. He also, I would suggest that you check in how much money hunters spend in the upcountry on typical visits. I usually go up for 1 or 2 visits, 4 to 5 days, spending thousands of dollars in lodging, meals, and guides. I'm quite sure, at least on a per capita basis, that bird hunters spend more money than OHRV enthusiasts, and if HB 127 passes, you'll be jeopardizing that. This is from Tom Carone.
Can you just submit those instead of reading them? And I'd just like to hear from you, and the committee can read those on our own, but I'd like to hear from you as far as the merits of the bill. because we have a lot of people that still need to speak.
Okay, well, I think that the bill is simply trying to get a leg in the door, a foot in the door, and they'll expand it next year to go for the whole month of October. And that's just the nature of the deal. Every year, they ask for more and more and more. And that's the nature of OHRV. They have a very powerful lobby. There's, in 2023, 156,000, just over 156,000 hunting licenses were sold. And I could give you a figure for the fishing license as well, but that's compared to 40,000 registrations for OHRVs. So it's almost 4 times as many hunting licenses. So when the word gets out that Governor Ayotte and others are opposed to, they're putting the needs of OHRVs above hunters, that's not going to look good. We're not, once we don't have a lobby, but when the word gets out, like I contacted bow hunters as well, they have an organization that they posted on Facebook. The point is that there's more hunters and fishermen spending more money in the state, 4 times more licenses than there are OHV. Those are numbers, okay? And you can't argue against the numbers. The lodge owner wrote a letter to Senator Rochefort, and he never heard back. His name is Tom Carone.
If you
And
could submit that to the committee, that would be appreciated. I still have a lot more people that need to speak.
Okay.
But
Well-
I really appreciate it. We do have questions from the committee member. Go ahead, Senator.
Mr. Collins, thank you for coming in today. I'm trying to understand the hunting issue. I'm an avid hunter.
I can't,
I said, I'm trying to understand the hunting issue. I'm an avid hunter myself, and the bow hunters, their season starts on the 15th of September, correct?
yes.
So they're hunting in that region those 2 weeks that the OHRVs are there, because they're allowed up to the end of the month, right?
As far as I understand, yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious why this, essentially, you're talking about 2 weekends, because the OHRV stuff is busy during the week. It's really essentially the weekends. I'm just trying to understand the conflict. I just don't want this to be a turf war over hunters and OHRV folks. I mean, you've got a small section of trail that you're really talking about, and it impacts maybe a quarter of a mile wide, small area on both sides of the road.
But are they going to limit their activity to that one trail?
Well, that's my understanding what this is about, is that 10 miles of road, if I'm understanding the issue correctly.
So you're saying that the only place they're going to operate for those 2 weeks, extending the season, and for those 2 weeks is just on that 10-mile trail?
That's what the bill says.
So that's my understanding. That's all this bill deals with, is that 10 miles of trail.
I find that hard to believe that that's going to limit them. They talk about coming up there and, and spending money and everything, but there's only going to be 10 miles. How much is that going to be an attractant?
Well, I guess if I may follow, is there other areas that they're closing on September 30th beforehand? I mean, my understanding is this is strictly about that 10 miles section of
I don't
road.
see anything that indicates they're going to be closing anywhere else. They're just going to say to extend the season. And they're talking about using that. The whole thing, if you go online and you look at the ATV club, they're saying we want this for convenience. We want this so that we can connect with the other trails in Errol and wherever. They want it for convenience. Well, I can't, I just assume based on what the usage of all the other trails, if you look at a trail map, there's a whole network of trails in Pittsburgh. And then they're going to limit themselves to that 10-mile stretch?
Well, I'm trying to make sure I understand, because my understanding, all the rest of the trails are still open through then, and the only part that's closing is this 10-mile stretch. If that's not correct, then I'm misunderstanding, but that's what I thought I understood the issue.
I thought that all operations of OHRVs ended September 30th in Pittsburgh.
All right, well, I'll further question Fish and Game when they come,
Senator
okay?
Rosenwald, with a
Thank you.
question.
Thank you. Sort of the other side of Senator Pearl's question, and thank you for taking it. During the summer, let's say, don't people go hiking in the Connecticut Lakes Headwaters Tract, and maybe with dogs, so they might have encounters with OHRVs during the non-hunting season?
I suppose, people want peace and quiet, and if they find out that the OHRVs are gonna be running into the middle of October, I think that's gonna change their patterns for visiting Pittsburgh. I don't know, I can't speak to the summertime myself, but I know that I find, the noise is offensive, and if you want peace and quiet and enjoy the pristine environment up there, the White Mountains, whatever, you're not gonna go with this OHRV activity. They're not compatible.
Thank you.
All right, I have to give other speakers an opportunity, so could you submit that to the committee so we'll all get a copy of that? Thank you very much. Representative Ann Davis? Arn Davis? Is it Arnie? I'll get it. Arnie.
I think you're another one. No, I'm not. Okay.
I think it's Ann Davis.
Is it Ann? Is it Ann or Arn?
Well, Arnie's here too. Which one?
Arnie's here,
Rep,
so am I.
Okay.
There are two Davises.
you know what? Go ahead. I said Ann first, so go for it. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Arvard and members of the committee. My name is Ann Davis. I live in Wilmot, so I'm not a North Country person, but I will be testifying today in opposition to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity. In light of the many people who are here to testify today, I do have written testimony. I will abbreviate that and hit the highlights for you.
That is greatly appreciated.
So first of all, I am a member of the HB 1188 OHRV Study Commission. I represent New Hampshire Timberland Owners Association and New Hampshire Farm Bureau. So I'm one of the people on that commission with the task to consider landowner rights, and I take that seriously. I've served on this commission since 2022. And by the way, one of the elements, our working tasks, is to review legislation, vet it, and so forth. Under the previous chairman of that commission, we did do that and were successful in getting bills passed. So there is the precedent for that. I just wanted to make that clarification. Two things. First, when the Connecticut Lakes Headwaters Citizen Committee met on September 12th, 2024, they did review the request to extend the season. I did speak with a couple members of that committee, and they said that during the update of the stewardship plan, which is part of their work on behalf of landowners and people in the state of New Hampshire, no one from the OHRV community came forward to say we would like to have this season extended. They did adopt a new 5-year stewardship plan in spring of 2024. So when they met again in a special meeting in September, they heard testimony, and in fact, I spoke with the person who suggested the 3-mile connector compromise. And OHRV people in the room shot it down and in fact swore at members of the community, and the committee did not take kindly to having obscenities shouted at them. So that might be part of the reason why it got a 6-3 thumbs down. 2 members of that committee in attendance that day also abstained from voting. On another point, I own 500 acres of timberland in Springfield. It is governed by a conservation easement. Now, in a conservation easement, the owner extinguishes development rights. My land is open to fishing, hunting, hiking. We probably have hundreds of people come through our property and use the 8 miles of trails every year. We have trail maps and so on and so forth. A conservation easement is very specific.
Is that what we're talking about today? Is that in that 10 miles?
Yeah, the whole idea of thinking that a conservation easement is fluid. Now, the stewardship plan for this property does change and adapt to community needs, but the conservation easement does not. My easement's 18 pages. The easement for the Connecticut Lakes property is more than 100. It is very, very specific. It does refer to primary uses. Those include hunting, fishing, hiking, trapping, and snowmobiling. It also notes as secondary uses ATVs, but there are very few secondary uses that are listed. I'm concerned for my conservation easement, which obviously is below the notches, that if this bill becomes law, that the attitude of New Hampshire lawmakers in terms of conservation easements being fluid, that could affect other conservation easements in the state. Quite frankly, that is a very chilling concept for me. I had signed on to a conservation easement for my property in perpetuity with a local land trust. We take our stewardship of the land very seriously, and I suspect that the folks who monitor the conservation easement for Connecticut Lakes also take their work on behalf of stewarding that land very seriously as well. Our previous speaker did allude to the number of fishing licenses, hunting licenses versus OHRV licenses. I don't have the specific numbers in regard to revenue for each one of those, but just crunching the numbers, there fishermen and hunters purchase 7.5 times more licenses than OHRV users. And so I would think that in that case, the majority ought to at least be considered. Thank you so much for your time. It's
Thank
a
you. Can we get a
privilege
copy of that?
always. Oh, yes, there's copies.
Oh, we did get a copy. And
And-
Senator Waters for the question. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Thanks so much, Representative. So I had two questions. I think that it's in Section 5D of the easement where it says that access to the roads can be granted so long as they don't contravene the stewardship plan. And so.
Yes, that is my understanding of reading that section.
And so the stewardship plan, which was the next, was a 4 or 5 year plan?
It's a 5-year plan.
Yeah, was just approved.
In April, yeah.
And so, wouldn't this bill, in a sense, contravene that part of the easement that gives the authority to the stewardship plan?
I'm not an expert on that, but just from my personal reading of it, the answer would be yes.
If I may ask one more. So we heard in previous testimony that the state, quote unquote, owns the roads and has paid for maintenance, but, and as an easement as someone who's done an easement yourself, the way I read Section 5D of the easement, it says that the fee owner maintains ownership of the whole property, which includes the roads, but the easement holder is responsible for the maintenance of them. So you, I assume, as a fee owner, maintain ownership of your property, all of it.
Yes, I pay taxes and manage it and so on and so forth.
So would it be your sense that in terms of this easement agreement, that in fact the state does not own the roads, but the fee owner does?
If it's a public, this is outside my area of
Okay, well,
expertise.
I just wanted to get the question,
But
that out there, so if you
I
don't
do
know.
have a Class 6 road that bisects my property, and you're familiar with
Yeah.
with Class 6 roads. So, as an abutter, if the town of Springfield
Yeah.
decided to open up that Class 6 road to ATVs, they would need to notify me as an abutting landowner. I maintain the road so that log trucks and people who come to use the property can access it. So I maintain it, and I have the the underlying land is the right-of-way, but the town owns the road.
Thank you. It does seem it's a little bit, it's opposite in this easement, but
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your, okay.
Just quick. So, thank you for being here. First off, I want you to know, I also have a conservation easement on my farm.
Well, thank you.
I'm very familiar with them and how they work and the
Yeah.
mechanics of them.
And each one is different.
They are.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the questions that I'm having. Senator Waters covered a lot of it. I want to assure you that there is, the legislature is not trying to subvert conservation easements. You know, there's some questions that we have, and I don't know for sure how this bill plays with the easement in place, but I assure you we will look at that appropriately and make sure that we're understanding it. But thank you for coming in, and I just wanted to give you a little sense of peace there.
Thank you, Senator Pearl. Thank you very much.
Any further questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Overstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, for the record, my name is David Rocher. I represent Senate District 1, which is all of Coos County and about a third of Grafton County. I just wanted to give you a little background on why I got involved on this bill. I do have another committee hearing going on right now, so I promise you I will be brief. And I gave the chairman earlier today some minutes from the September 12th meeting that was held at the Pittsburgh Fire Department when consideration was being given to keep this very small amount of trail open for an additional 2 weeks. And if you see those minutes, about the third line down, it said members of the public were given the opportunity to weigh in on this topic. What the minutes don't tell you is that members of the public, in a ratio of about 5 to 1, were in favor of keeping these trails open. And the reasons were widespread and varied. Everything from economic development, everything from logistics, you know, where this section of trail, when closed, cuts off 2 other sections of trail. In a variety of other reasons, but it was overwhelming the amount of community support that was there for keeping these trails open. Despite the overwhelming community support, the commission voted against it, and I felt that was troubling because the commission is tasked with listening to community input on this. So I'm supportive of Senate Bill 127. I've got, again, and probably the amount of feedback I've heard from my constituents is reflective of what I heard at that meeting. I do have many constituents that are in favor of keeping this open. I have only one constituent that I've spoken to from Randolph that is opposed to this, but again, Randolph is a long way away from this section of trail that we're talking about. So just wanted to give a little background, maybe a little insight into the minutes that are not always, you know, as clear sometimes as this. And one thing I do want to make note of, I, like Senator Pearl, am a lifelong hunter, and we were always taught not to hunt on the roads. You hunt in the woods. And so I have a hard time with that.
Well, turkeys are in the road, man.
I don't know. This guy behind me probably would have a problem with that. You start shooting from the road. Yep.
I do have a kind of a yucky question, if you will. You were there at the meeting,
Yes.
and how many people were voting members were there?
Voting members on the commission, I don't that maybe
voting-
9 maybe.
And 2 abstained, and it went down. But there were a lot of angry words prior to the vote. Correct.
There was some concerning words. There's some.
All right, let's not be a politician.
Yes, there were some heated words. Yes, yes.
Could that have affected the outcome one way or the other?
I don't know. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, if, you know, you're hearing from the community and your job is to hear from the community and respond to the community, if that, you know, the outcome of the vote was contrary to the community feedback that we were hearing.
Okay, Senator Waters. Oh, and then Senator McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, wouldn't you agree that the commission also has, I mean, yes, the public, but it also has responsibility to the easement as a legally binding guide to them?
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, they do keep that in mind. But, you know, when you've got hundreds of miles of trails that are open, you know, past this one section of 9 or 10 miles that we're talking about, you know, I think that logic would say, you know, we're not breaking with a continuum by keeping these 9 miles open.
Yeah, and on that, let me just ask that, you know, I'm really open-minded on this because I can see both sides really well on it. I have asked a lot of questions about the legal status of the easement, and because this commission is bound to it. But the issue here is that the bill says all trails. It doesn't say just that connecting piece. And I believe there was some compromise suggested at that September 12th meeting about, well, okay, we'll open up the actual connecting piece. But you yourself just referenced, you know, lots and lots of trails. So would it make sense to amend the bill to specify the connecting OHRV trail?
I mean, obviously, that's up to the committee, but I think the purpose of the bill was to look at, you know, we've got hundreds of miles of trails that are open for the fullest extent of the season. And I think the intent of the prime sponsor was to align this one section of trail with all of the others. I think that's where he was looking for. But you can speak to him directly.
But if
But
I
that
just
was,
say- but I
when
just
I
say-
signed on to the bill, that was my intent.
okay.
Make it uniform across the state.
Yeah,
Senator McConkey?
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to, I have a copy of the minutes. I don't know if everyone does, of that September 12th meeting. I'd just like to note, when you had asked the question, the vote was 3 in favor, 6 against. 2 people did not vote there. I'm never a fan of being in a room and not voting, but there were 5 members that were absent that day. So perhaps the outcome would have been much different had people been elected to that committee been in that room that day. Just to answer your questions.
Thank you, Senator. Further questions? Seeing none, you may.
All right, thank
may
you very
go Back
much.
to your committee, Senator. Representative Arnie. Oh, you're gonna wait, okay. I usually give the reps, but you're a rep. Are you, I'm sitting in front of Representative Arnie.
Yes, but I'm not speaking on this bill.
You're not speaking on this bill. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask Ray Gorman to come up. And you are the Coos County Commissioner. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm County Commissioner for District 3, which is a large part of Coos County. I have all the North Country north of Groveton. I have Stratford all the way to Pittsburgh. I have 18 unincorporated towns, Gorham and Carroll. So I cover a large area of Coos. I am also represent Coos County on the Headwaters Commission. All right. I think Senator Roford gave a very good description of what that meeting was about. I was there. I was one of the 3 people that voted affirmative. It was one of the worst meetings I've ever attended. I'm not sure what the purpose of the meeting was. It was decided before we walked into the room. That's how I felt when you had so many people speaking that way. And that's all, I mean, if you want me to ask me more about the meeting, I can, but that's how it went that night when you had so many people speaking. So some of the things that we've touched on here that I want to reconfirm, as far as enforcement, the county sheriffs have done a wonderful job of stepping up in the last 5 years and really helping with enforcement, have done a good job. And actually, we're seeing less tickets. Some of this stuff is actually working, and we have no problem at all. It's completely, as was described earlier today, in that the enforcement part of this. The economics of this is significant. And it's not just Pittsburgh. I'm a Colebrook resident, Colebrook selectman. I used to work at the Black Bear Tavern for 10 years. I worked at the Balsams for 30 years. And I can tell you the difference between a weekend with OHRV folks and a weekend without OHRV folks, because the trails are closed, is very significant. To those businesses in Pittsburgh, that last weekend is a holiday weekend. And I think anybody that knows anything about tourist business, you lose a holiday weekend, that's a significant amount. You're talking about minimum double digits of your business for the season, okay? And, you know, the North Country tends to be very busy to that time of year as well, but the OHRVs have become a significant part of our business, as well as the snowmobiles. It's almost comparable. You know, you go to Pittsburgh on the weekends, during the winter, it's crazy busy. In the summer, it's the same thing. The businesses have got lines outside waiting to get in. Things are busy. But that whole is an umbrella. The trails come from Burl and Gore, who are very successful. Have the OHRVs have become a big part of their economy. Through Colebrook, okay. I'm going to go on to, you know, this economics part of this is very significant. Now, by being on the Headwaters Commission, one of the words that was brought up today was secondary use. In my definition, from what I have seen from the paperwork that has come to me, is that secondary means it wasn't written in the original document. That document is an amazing document to read, because it was very well done at the time. It's very well, also it's open-ended, gentlemen. This wasn't meant to be concrete. It was meant to make adjustments as things happen in time over decades. We now have the OHRVs, who are a very significant part of all of us in the North Country. And by all of us, I mean Fish and Game, Forest Service, businesses, citizens, and I mean citizens of the whole state. You think of all the people that come north of Franconia Notch, come to Pittsburgh, we're recognized, okay? And Pittsburgh's a big part of it. And the Connecticut Headwaters is our largest piece of land that we have in the state. And it needs to be, it's multi-use, all right? Now, I wish I'd have brought maps today. I wish I'd have brought the trail maps. These 10 miles of trails are on the southern end of the property, okay? The very southern end. They're grouped together, okay? I feel the importance of it to keep all of that connected is the important part. And it's not a huge part. We've heard today about hunting licenses, how there's more hunting licenses than OHRVs. Well, we can interpret that in multiple ways of the state, so on and so forth. And what we have going on at the same time is hunting, bird hunting, bow hunting. And this, I'm going to testify now as Raymond Gorman, a breeder of American Brittany bird dogs for 30 years. I have won wild bird championships in New Brunswick, Wisconsin, Michigan, and New England. I train almost exclusively on grouse and woodcock. And I can speak about the hunting part of this. Bird hunters are guys and folks that almost always you see them in trucks. You see 2 or 3 guys. Usually one truck might have 3 or 4 dogs. Another truck might be just have a couple guys. But what you see with these folks, the bird hunters especially, is that they go up to a trailhead, an old logging road. These guys are very independent. They're used to going to areas, oh shoot, somebody's here today, all right? But they are resilient. And I feel the part of the property is the northern property, part of the property, Scotts Bog, East Inlet, all those tens of thousands of acres up there of just incredible bird cover, moose, all the wild, you know, that's really where more of the wildlife is concentrated here. So as I speak to you today, I speak to you that we should be able to live with the hunters. This is a small piece of roads that we're asking to join that has a significant economic impact to our North Country. The document is definitely well-written, and it's meant for multiple uses. Second area, from what I understand of it, is it means that it wasn't written in the original agreement. Now, I was part of a group that Nash Stream, this other huge area that we have, OHRVs have been added as a recognized use in Nash Stream. Okay? So it's not, OHRVs are here. They're a huge economic factor. We need to work together. That area does not need to be singled out. I believe for Fish and Game, it might cause them even more problems with it being closed than open. All right? Now they're going to enforce telling people they can't be on the trails. So there's multiple ways of looking at this. I believe that we need some continuity here. I think we need to recognize the economic development, and we need to all work together to take care of this situation and multiple situations that will come up in the future with the Connecticut Headwaters.
Thank you for your testimony, Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. We heard testimony earlier that money has been appropriated for the sheriff of Coas to patrol this section of trail. But that's a year-to-year thing. Would you be open to language that made this opening contingent upon the continued appropriation of money in Coas County to
Certainly,
patrol and enforce?
I understand. I don't know if it's necessary, because it's part of what we already do. All right? We appropriate money. There's money that comes from Fish and Game to help us do the patrols and to work with them. We do a lot. We're hand in hand. Fish and Game and these guys are all buddies working together, trying to take care of problems, and they're doing a good job. They're doing a real good job. All right. The thing that, Fish and Game has to handle accidents, we understand that. But the appropriations, I think it's there, ma'am. I don't see why we need to change it. I mean, there's no movement to get away from putting money into enforcement because it works. And some of it comes back through the fines as well. These fines that are from RSA specifically for HRVs comes back to the county.
Thank you. Did I misunderstand? I thought what I heard was that county funds were appropriated to the sheriff's department to provide the enforcement on these trails. Are you saying it's Fish and Game funds?
So what I've made a nice mess of this, and I apologize. Okay, Fish and Game this is a whole big system that I was describing. All right, how it is done through the whole season. All right, where monies are appropriated through the registrations, et cetera, like that. I believe we have at least one Fish and Game person that's going to talk today, and I think they'll do a much better job explaining it than I do. So I guess my point is, we certainly specifically said that we would help with that weekend and take care of that weekend. All right, we will take responsibility. But we are also have taken responsibility overall to do very similar things through the whole season. Does that answer your question? We're not adding money. We're not adding money, ma'am. No, we are not.
We're gonna have to wrap this
It's the same money that's already there. Excuse me.
Senator Pearl.
Thanks for coming in. I'm trying to make sure I get my head around this process. So are OHRVs allowed to use this section of road we're talking about up until September 30th?
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing we're talking about, so if it was an easement issue, it would be an easement issue before September 30th, not just between September 30th and Columbus Day, correct? Am I correct on that?
We're just talking about this 2-week period.
Correct, but if there was an issue with the easement, it would be the use the rest of the year as well, not just this period. So that's why I'm trying to get my head around this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I believe so.
Thank you.
I'm not a legal expert, gentlemen. I'm a local yokel doing the best I can. Thank you for your time today,
Senator
folks.
Rutherford,
Whoops.
quick question.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks for coming down, Commissioner, really, and good information. So, in terms of, the bill says all trails. So is there a need for any clarification that it really is the 10 miles that we're talking about? Would there be any other trails that might be used potentially that's not the section, that is not those miles?
So the way I understand this, we are asking for those 10 miles. All the other trails are already open.
And they're outside the easement?
Yes.
Okay. Another question if I could. The easement, it seemed to me, said that the fee owner retains ownership of the roads, but are any of those roads or trails Class 6 roads or ones that were historically public ways? Or are they not?
I do not know that question.
All right, thanks.
Because I know what a Class 6 road is, and I don't think they fit that definition, because those are town roads.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
try to keep open for safety
Right,
reasons.
right. So the question was that it seems to me that the fee owner actually still owns what are called roads or trails, but the state, as the easement holder, has a responsibility to maintain them.
Yes,
So
and I mean, they
they're
do.
not the property of the state, quote unquote.
I mean, the state works with the owner for gravel, okay?
Yeah,
There's a lot of things that go
Yeah.
into this,
Right.
hiring and so on and so forth. And there's never quite enough money to keep the roads as nice as we wish. We keep plugging away.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, appreciate it.
Thank
Mark
you.
Brady? And we're gonna kind of have to move it along, because I still got two more bills, and we still have, yeah. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. I believe you were up with us. Did you come up during the summer? I don't know, with Senator Carson? You were not, okay.
No, I went to Pittsburgh to look at the border.
That's right, okay. Thank you. Mark Brady, Coas County Administrator. First, let me clarify, because some of the last questions were from the Senator. So the Sheriff's Department is actively, the Coas County Sheriff's Department is active out on the trails all year. Okay, and I've got some numbers for you. This was actually what was said to Representative Weiler, and I can get it to this committee as well. So, one, we've appropriated $30,000 in this year's budget that the delegation will approve next week. For $30,000 will go towards enforcement, Coas County Sheriff. In 2024, they conducted 794 OHRV hours patrolling. They issued 1,418 warnings and 249 summons. And that's what we do on a regular basis. I mean, and I think what that represents is you wouldn't have seen those numbers 20 years ago. But we as a county understand, and why I'm here as the administrator, is to protect our tax base, that the state made a conscious decision back. I was in the legislature with Craig Benson, okay, representing the old District 2, which was the second largest geographic district state in the State House then, after 1, which was up Colebrook. I'm from Jefferson, grew up in the tourism business. My grandfather started Six Gun City. So we made a concerted, collectively decision 20 years ago to go ahead and really promote the OHRV. And, you listen to some of this testimony, and many of us locals, I mean, I've grew up there my life, been in and out of there my whole life, off and on. It was a shock to drive down the road in Gorham, and you got these OHRVs, okay? I'm not saying that all of us like it, but I'm gonna tell you what, being somebody that, in my case, that's responsible for a $50 million budget, $48 million budget, 2 nursing homes, and to have to deliver those constitutionally in a correctional facility and deliver those mandated services that we have to do. And I think what Commissioner Gorman has articulated, what Representative Ouellette has articulated, is that, thank God we do have it. When you look at the numbers of our economy, it's changing from what it was. I'm not going to digress into that right now. But the point is, one, on enforcement, we've recognized that we are out there as well. There are things we cannot do that Fish and Game does. Understood. We get that, but we're very active. We're very, very active. And it is an economic development issue, but it's a quality of life issue as well, and it's a cultural issue, you know, and we recognize all of that. But when you're talking about, and I think Representative Olet mentioned one of the studies that was done, those 2 weekends create about, I think, $18 million plus or minus economic activity for the state collectively. That's real money. And I was at that meeting as well. And I spoke in favor, obviously, that's been our position. We're somewhat at a disadvantage, as you know, for us to get people to come down here to testify. It's tough to get business owners to come down here to Concord, to be here for 9:20 in the morning to testify. The business owners were overwhelmingly in support of this, and it very much is the lifeblood. You know, to go back to what the state did, they actually did what the state wanted them to do, those business owners. That's the market working. You're actually seeing the market working. You didn't have what you had 20 years ago, what you do now. Another point, when you look at owners of real estate up north and housing specifically, we're in the process of doing an economic development study ourselves, which I think is going to be beneficial for the whole state, for all of you decision makers. I looked at the first draft yesterday, and it showed that 30% of our home ownership is not by residents. And I suspect it's probably the highest in the state. You can go to Pittsburgh, as Commissioner Gorman said, on a weekend, and that population is 5-6 times. You got 6,000 to 7,000 people sometimes. So this is important to us. It's very important to us. It is about certainly real economic activity, real money, but it's money for the state as well. I mean, it's not just us. It's everyone. And we're concerned about our tax base. You have other bills coming your way, and you're going to hear more about that. But these are real issues for us, and it's important for us.
Thank you for your testimony, Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thinking about the rooms and meals tax that's generated from this, because it's distributed based on population,
Right.
that $18 million, isn't it disproportionately benefiting Hillsborough and Rockingham County and not Coles County?
Look, I love this line of questioning, okay? When Senator Gendron brought up, I think it was, then it was Senator Bradley, Senator Carson was up there. She'll remember very clearly. And Senator Bradley, we had this discussion in our county offices, and you're absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. We are 2% of the population of the state and 20% of the land area. And would I say we don't get our fair share? Yeah, absolutely. I remember Senator Carson saying she sees all the trailers, the trucks with the trailers, you know, filling up in off 93 or whatever, and you know where they're going. They're going up north. That's exactly where they're going, you know, and so, but that creates issues for us. Obviously, we're not getting that revenue, and to create that type of economy as well has its own implications. You've seen it with the property ownership, et cetera, which we don't need to get into today. But I appreciate the question, because Senator, I wish you could tell all your colleagues and say, you know what? I just got an email that said something about they were looking to play with the reformulation on, on HB1 and HB2. Please don't make it any worse with giving us money, okay, flowing it back to the municipalities for sure.
I'm going to have to move it along,
Got it.
but maybe we could share some of this revenue with the Fish and Game too. They're looking for money.
I think that would be great, absolutely.
Got you guys. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Abby? Abby, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of running out of time, so.
I hear you. I will try and be
Yeah.
very brief.
Just speak from your heart.
Yeah, I'll send my letter in later. My name is Abby Ivanko. I live in Gorham, New Hampshire. I'm the clerk of the study commission that you've been hearing about, and I was not part of the straw poll that Representative Ouellette took. A friend of mine used to hunt in Berlin. Since the ATV trails have been open, the birds are not there, so now he has to travel further to hunt. I've heard that from multiple other hunters. Once birds are scared off, they leave. So the impact of ATV trails are far beyond the corridor. The dust travels and the noise travels even further. OHRV riders have 18 weeks of access to the Connecticut Lake headwaters. Bird hunters have 7. With this bill, they will be down to 5. And you've heard how many more hunting licenses are sold. When OHRVs come in, others leave. Also in here is a compatibility study. And ATVs, they'll share the trail with anyone. Not everyone else wants to share the trail with them. There's a cycling trail in Gorham, and once the ATVs got on the rail trail, cyclists don't go over there because it's a lousy way to get to their trail in this rutted, dusty, loud corridor. Let's see. You've already heard there's conflicts with multiple statutes, including the OHRV trail sighting statutes, 215A, 41, 42, 43, which states that these trails must be managed, quote, in cooperation with the Department of Fish and Game, and you do not have that on this bill. As for the economic study you've been hearing about, it has not been independently vetted. I think it's self-reporting. Those are my comments. Was I fast enough?
You did really well, so wait a second, now let's see, other questions. All right, thank you very much, we really appreciate that. And Rep. Arnie, listen, come on up, but I'm gonna have to put a really tight rope on you here. You're not gonna be able to have 5 minutes, it'll be like 3.
I have a letter from Joe Kenny, couldn't be here.
Okay,
He asked me to
and I hate to squeeze you, but we're running out of time.
Most of what I've got to say is, would be redundant right now. I just got a couple of comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Committee. I find it very interesting to say there's no local opposition. The opposition that I see is coming from an hour and a half or further away. People that aren't affected by the economic development of this decision. The property owners that own the land where these trails are not in opposition to this bill. And this 10 miles of OHRV trail is within the Connecticut Headwaters property. There are no abutters, there's no landowners, there's nobody that this would disrupt. This is actually an economic development bill, not an OHRV bill. The important takeaway here is the amount of revenue that'll be lost by landlocking Pittsburgh out of their potential revenue for 2 weeks, and like it's been said earlier, a holiday weekend. Also, the loss of room and meals tax and fuel tax to the state. There'll be no fiscal impact to the state or to Fish and Game. That's been said. Lastly, I believe it's very naive to think that hunting and OHRV use can exist in the entire state, just not in this 10 miles of trail. We're doing this everywhere, and we're doing it all season. It's not like a stewardship position because this is being allowed all season. We're just asking for 2 additional weekends for the people of Pittsburgh to be able to make a little additional income. And I'd like to thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
We're going to end up closing the hearing, but I would like Fish and Game to be here when we do exec this, so we can probably tease out some more questions. Just kind of running out of some time, and I know you guys have been waiting here, but I still have a couple more bills that I gotta go through. So with that, we're going to close the hearing and move on to our next bill.
When are we going to exec that?
Dave was ready to do it today, but I don't know if I have time.
Like if I remember anything I've heard?
No, we could do it next week.
Well, I know I've forgotten everything.
So we'll hear from the prime sponsor of HB 153.
Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you today?
Very good, thank you, Senator Avard and the committee. This bill here is establishing a study committee. What we have found over the years is that the animal cruelty laws are really not being understood by law enforcement and prosecutors. and it's creating a void in dealing with cases of abuse. We had an extensive hearing in the House and decided amongst all agencies that coming up with the study committee is the best way to move forward, to look at the training by the police standards. The Humane Society is on board with this. The Governor's Humane people from the Governor's Commission on the Humane Treatment of Animals is on board with this. Farm Bureau is on board with this. Law enforcement, the chiefs of police, county sheriffs, all think that this is the way to go forward so that we can get something right. This is the second session or elected cycle that this bill has been, something similar has been brought forward. And the only way we can ensure that we can encompass it and get it right for all citizens of New Hampshire and make sure that the laws are being enforced correctly and understood correctly, we believe is through the study committee, so that in the fall we can come up with something that will work for the citizens. That's it.
Thank you. And this study committee has a fiscal note.
There is no fiscal note.
Well, it's an FN bill.
It was an FN bill, but it will have no, it says here on the fiscal impact, have no impact on state, county, and local expenditures or revenue.
Well, so my question sort of feeds into that. There's a section, Roman 4, which says, recognize that having a group to assist with promptness of calls will be in the best interest of animals in distress. Is that suggesting like a hotline, which would have a fiscal impact?
Okay. The County of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police have already been working with the ASPCA and talking with others, and they believe that it could come up something similar to a task force which would have very minimal, like a SWAT task force, which would be shared at the county level and would be very minimal in tax impact, but would have great impact regarding animal cruelty.
Senator Waters.
I just want to say thanks so much for being here. As a member of the commission, I know how much we've been interested in ensuring that law enforcement has the good training. I mean, they're willing to do the job, it's just the training of what are they seeing, what do they recognize, what does a horse look like when it's healthy or not, and so on. And this would help that, right?
It would absolutely help that, but it would also help. A lot of towns and communities don't have animal control officers on their staff. And this isn't to take the place of local law enforcement or ACOs, but it's more, there's a resource there. And for people to ask questions, we also know that at the judicial branch, the prosecutors really don't understand these laws and don't understand how to prosecute that. And we need to look at how we can educate them also. There's a lot of stuff already available online. So, you know, I truly don't believe there will be a huge fiscal impact to the state, but this is something that is truly needed in the state.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you very much.
Representative Bixby, how did you know I was going to call on you next?
Lucky guess.
Yeah. Welcome.
I might be the only other one on the list.
No, there's a couple more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the record, Representative Peter Bixby from Dover, Stratford County 13. I am a co-sponsor on this bill. And Representative Comtois and I have recognized for a couple of terms that there is the knowledge resources for law enforcement in terms of dealing with animal cruelty cases are not sufficient, and we were trying to figure out a way to do it. what we figured out this time around was that what we had attempted to do was not the right way to do it, and that really the way to figure it out is to do the study committee. And just in terms of the need, we heard on another animal cruelty related bill in our committee, members of law enforcement not realizing that they needed to charge a person in order to be able to confiscate the animals, which is currently in law. There are changes in law that happen over the course of time that law enforcement is not necessarily kept current on. Animal cruelty is a very, very small part of their purview, so it's not something they necessarily pay that much attention to. What we really need is some resource that will allow law enforcement to call somebody and say, we have an animal cruelty case, help us out, let us know what we need to pay attention to in terms of the way the law works. And I think the police standards and training suggested that a task force might be a good way to do this, but we really need to have the study committee in order to figure out the right way to do it. And the study committee has no fiscal impact. The study committee will figure out if there's any fiscal impact necessary for further legislation going forward. And I'd be happy to take questions.
You got off the hook this time. Very good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Secretary Representative. Appreciate it. Robert Johnson.
Mr. Chair, I know you're behind Farm Bureau supports, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. You are in favor, by the way. Kurt, you are the caboose.
The last one.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'll take a long time. I will be quite brief. Humane World for Animals, which was formerly known as the Humane Society of the United States, in full support of this as a member of the Governor's Commission on the Humane Treatment of Animals. The whole commission, but I would say law enforcement and the animal care community have been looking for some kind of solution when an animal is being abused in this state, that there is a prompt and effective response. And the disparity between departments and coverage in the state, just because geography and other factors, has caused a problem in response, at least a perceived problem. I think it's real, but that's what we want to find out. And cover these animals with protection that they don't have now. So that is really what we're trying to get at, among a number of other things. We had some wonderful discussion in the House, thanks to the representatives who spoke earlier today. They've done a lot of work to bring in the stakeholders, law enforcement, the shelter community, the Governor's Commission, the animal protection folks. So I thank everyone who's working on this. We're in full support. It's good to work together. And one thing I would say to the committee is take this opportunity to work on animal issues, protect animals in the state. It's nonpartisan. We're all for it. It's a great model for how we can all work together and make a better New Hampshire. Thank you very much.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak on this? Oh, come on. Robert, you don't want to say anything? Good. All right. With that, we're going to close the hearing on that. And, yep, thank you very much. And we'll open up the hearing on SB 179FN and hear from the prime sponsor, Representative Bixby. You are recognized.
So I am the sponsor of the amendment. I was not the prime sponsor of the bill itself, but that's okay. Because the prime sponsor of the bill itself is not here.
Okay. Okay, fine. You can introduce the bill first.
Okay, so what HB 179 does is it updates the way that penalties are placed on accidents involving hazardous waste, where the where there is damage to the fire department's equipment in the course of dealing with that accident. So under existing statute, which is RSA 54-8-A, there is a mechanism for fire departments to be able to recover the cost of equipment that's damaged if there's a toxic release that is deemed to be the fault of the person who was storing that toxic material. Often it's oil or a related substance, but there are other things that can do the damage as well. And we heard from Representative Prue, who is the prime sponsor of this, that generally the responsible party is reasonably good at paying up, but sometimes they don't. And that's where the difficulty comes, because currently in statute, the penalty for not paying up is a single $1,000 penalty. And they don't, if the damage is under $10,000, they generally don't even go after it. Sometimes the damage can be over $100,000. And a $1,000 penalty, one-time $1,000 penalty is not enough incentive to cause someone to get someone to pay, actually pay for the damage that they're responsible for. So several of us on the committee got together to amend this, and what you have in the bill before you is our amendment, it changes the one-time $1,000 penalty to, after a grace period of 90 days, a daily penalty of $1,000 until the restitution is paid, and the total of, but there's a cap on that, so the total penalty can't exceed 100% of the cost that needs to be recovered. And this should provide ample incentive for someone to actually pay up the real cost.
We have copies
I actually have a copy of the, I have some testimony, and on the testimony, I actually have both the key part of the bill and also the RSA that it goes into, so if you want to refer to that. So the other thing that we recognize is that there may be a situation where the responsible party will not be able to pay the entire cost immediately. And what this does is it allows the responsible party and the and the party that needs to be restored to wholeness to come up with a payment schedule agreement. And as long as the responsible party is meeting their obligations under those scheduled payments, they would not be subject to more fines. And that is basically what we've done. And I hope you think this is a good idea. And I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah.
Senator Waters and then Senator Rosenwald.
I'm confused, Representative. Do you have an amendment before us?
I do not have an amendment. What I have before you is the House the House version. As amended by the House.
So you don't have, there's no new amendment.
There's nothing that, we're not asking you to change anything.
All right, good. That's it wasn't clear. That's all we want to know.
So we're just asking you to look at the work we did and say, that's awesome, and pass it.
I'm sure, look, everything the House does is awesome. I mean, you know that. We just fall down in awe every time a bill comes over. So
Okay.
It's good. It's good.
Senator Rosenwald?
It was basically the same question.
We're good. We're good. Okay.
Thank you, Representative. So just for our own information, when, on line 4, line 3 and 4, you're talking about the $1,000 pay penalty.
Right.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. That $1,000 penalty does not offset the restitution, correct? That would be in
Correct.
addition to the restitution, but it's to make sure that the penalty never exceeds what the restitution would be.
Correct. So the penalty, so essentially, if someone continues to fail to pay, they would be on the hook for twice the restitution.
Okay, and follow up if I may?
Follow up?
And because of the penalty and the restitution, they'd end up paying both. That's how they get
Yes.
twice. Yeah, all right,
Right.
just make sure I understand that. And who does the penalty dollars go to? Do you know where that goes?
Okay, so in current statute, it is not absolutely clear. The restitution clearly goes to the fire department that suffered the damage. There is a indication that there is a penalty of $1,000. It does not indicate where that goes. If you feel that you need to make a small amendment in order to clarify that, we would have no objection.
See, I think the House just admitted they missed something. I'm just teasing.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Thank you.
Senator Rosenwald with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the title of the bill talks about a fee, but there's no fee anywhere in the language. It's a penalty. Did the original bill have a fee?
No, I think that what happened was either the prime sponsor or OLS was a little bit sloppy with their language. So it is, in current statute, it is titled as a penalty, and we've maintained that in our language here. So the fee language in the title is probably a little bit of linguistic sloppiness.
Excuse me.
Further questions? Everything's copacetic. Thank you very much,
All right, thank you.
Representative. That's it, folks. Nobody else wants to speak on this? You see it? It's happening. All right, closing the hearing.
Want executive these?
Let's talk, let's at
Well,
least talk
we can at
about.
least talk. So motion to move in. Okay, seconded by Senator Waters. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. So the bill that 10-mile, what is it, 127?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts on it, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I think that we could change the word until to through, as Senator Rosenwald suggested.
Yep.
And then, so on line 6, change until to through. And then on line 5, if we could insert, so it reads, all existing OHRV trails.
Discussion?
So that would, you know, I was trying to get at just what trails we're talking about, and I think I understand that now, but we're not trying by legislation to say that there could be new ones or they be expanded or so on. It's just the ones that are there now, that 10 or whatever miles is what we're talking about. So all existing. And if I may just continue on it, is that we had a really good hearing. I understand about the grouse, the fish and game, but I think that overall, for me, the balance of this goes towards maybe we ought to pass the bill. So that's where I'm at with those changes.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I wanted to make sure I understood exactly what this was talking about, and in the interim, I had an opportunity to speak with Captain Eastman, and this is the only trail on this property that allows OHRVs. It's this 10-mile section. So the concerns, and I would be supportive of Senator Waters to make sure we kept it that way by putting the word existing in. As long as we're not creating some other conflict by doing it, but I don't think we are.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're okay with that, and I would certainly be supportive of putting the word through in, as Senator Rosenwald. I just wanted to make sure that that we understood exactly what was going on, because conservation easements for these property easements are very important for me. I have one on my own farm, and I want to make sure that we aren't doing something to that, but we're not. There's no concern here that I can identify that this is having any impact on the conservation easement as written. And, you know, it allows the use through September 30th, allowing it through October 14th, essentially. It would not be contrary to what's going on already on the uses of the property. So I don't feel that that's a valid argument that this would have any impact on an easement.
Senator McConkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have taken a little extra time on this, as one of my colleagues and a very good friend are on opposite views of this. I'm also a storekeep I'm also in the Lakes region. I fully understand what losing that big holiday week happens to my own bottom line. So with the conditions that have been put on here to tighten this up, I'm in full support.
Senator Rosenwald?
So, you know, I'm a word nut.
Yeah, we like it.
I think that the last 4 words of the bill, which is Columbus Day, is extraneous. What's really important is the second Monday in October. And I don't think we need to refer to a holiday that moves between basically the 8th and the 14th. I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I do think that the designation of Columbus Day as a holiday says the second Monday, so I don't think that's inaccurate.
It's true, but the other is also true, that the second Monday in October takes you through Columbus Day.
Well,
I
think
mean,
it's
it's not
distinction,
gonna change my
I think it's
vote,
a distinction without a
but
difference, but anyways.
I
But yeah,
think-
We can add, never mind.
I just think it gets muddy if you start picking that apart. I agree with your other assessment of through the holiday, yes.
Yeah.
But you also made a note as far as making sure it's all existing.
Yeah, so the two, so why don't somebody move out to pass?
I'll move on to pass.
I'll second.
Discussion.
And I'll move a committee amendment, and the committee amendment on line 5 will insert the word existing after all, so it reads all existing OHRV trails. And then on line 6, replaces the word until with through.
I'll second
that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Is there a motion to ought to pass as amended?
pass as amended.
Seconded by Senator Waters. Discussion?
I think we've had a great discussion on this bill already, and I appreciate everyone who came in, and I think
Good, it
they
was
raised
good.
a lot of great points, and I think we've got a better bill because of it.
All, yes.
I would just say that I'm looking forward to the benefit as a member of Hillsborough County.
All in favor of ought to pass as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Consent?
Seconded by
Second.
Senator Rosenwald. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye. Would like to take this out. Senator Rosenwald, would you like to take this one out? You've never taken one out from
I don't think we have any OHRV trails in
I'll take
Nashua.
We don't?
Well, not in my district anyway.
Well, have you
But
been,
maybe in his.
have you been to Grilly Park lately? I'm
Senator
kidding.
McConkey.
I'm so
No,
kidding.
I'm happy
Senator
to take it
McConkey.
out if you want.
He
but-
would like to.
Senator McConkey will take it out. How about the study bill?
I'll move out to pass the
Second.
153.
Okay, seconded by Senator Pearl.
As long
Discussion.
as- I'm seconding as long as Senator Waters is the Senate member.
You know, actually, I'm on the commission, and I've been working on, this issue is important, so I'd be glad to, okay?
There you
All in favor of ought to pass?
go. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Consent.
opposed?
Second? He moved consent. I'll say second.
All in favor of consent?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
And I think Senator Waters should take
Yeah,
this.
I'd be glad to take it out.
Senator Waters takes it out. So are you comfortable with the last one that we just heard?
I
The
am.
only thing that I want to look at, and I have, and maybe, does
Okay.
anybody know where the penalty dollars go? I just want to make sure that we're not
We
incentivizing.
have a handout there.
Do we? Could we?
Play to the claimant. Where, what line?
Can she come up?
Did you hear her?
Okay, so the claimant, we would be offsetting the,
Yeah, that's what it is, like, so that if the damage is done on somebody's property, up to the amount of the actual damage is what they might potentially get back if the fines go on and on.
here's my concern with this, is you're now potentially incentivizing or paying 2 times doomage to the claimant if it goes on long enough. Theoretically, they could get double what their loss was.
So maybe what we could think about for next time is if you had some language that DES or whoever might suggest so that it limits the amount to the claimant to the actual damage done, and then the excess of that might go to enforcement or DES, because something.
You wanna wait on it?
I think we need to,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we're
I
in,
think we should.
we're setting new precedent that we don't generally do.
Yeah,
And I'm a little concerned about that.
yeah, good idea.
All right, so is there a motion to move out of exec?
So moved. Moved and seconded over here.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, seeing none? No further business?
Good.
Just got a beautiful paper cut. Oh, somebody call an ambulance.
Call the nurse.
All right, with that, we're
You
gonna
worked
close
your
the hearing.
fingers to the bone.
Yes, I did actually, believe it or not. Good job, committee. Senator Rosenwald, we do thank you for your